Are you feeling the calling to start or grow a business that is so aligned with you and everything that makes up who you are? Do you know that there has to be a way to do this without so much hustle and without chasing the latest shiny objects, but you're just not sure how? You can definitely have a dream business that improves, not consumes your life, that allows you to work with soulmate clients while helping you and your family financially and in all ways. You can elevate yourself to be the entrepreneur who has all of her desires. I'm going to show you how on the Elevated Femmes movement. Hi, welcome back to another episode of the Elevated Femmes movement. This week, I'm chatting with Molly Mariss, who is an operations manager. She helps business owners to streamline, automate, and really be able to put themselves in the position to elevate and scale their businesses to, seven figures beyond. And we know that, if you have been in business for some time, you know that you can't do this. You can't, get to the next level without having organization, without having scalable systems. So Molly is an expert that I brought on to chat with me today to talk more about some of these things that are a must in a business that is, that you're looking to scale. So Molly, welcome to the show. I'm so happy to chat with you today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, you're welcome. So I would love for you to just start by telling us a little bit about you. Tell us about who you are, what you do, how you got started in your work. I always love hearing the stories of, what sort of encourages and sometimes pushes people to start their online businesses. It's always inspiring, no matter what level another entrepreneur who's listening to the show is at. I feel like we always get inspiration from hearing somebody's story. So yeah, let us know how you got started with what you're doing.
Yeah. So first of all, I'm from Wisconsin and I have two girls. My oldest just turned 7 and my youngest is 3.5. And they are really the reason of why I started my business. So kind of goes back to when my oldest was born. I had her when I was young. I was 20. So I was still going through college, getting my bachelor's degree in healthcare administration. Thought I was going to work in a hospital system, improving processes and all of that, which I kind of do that today, but just not in a hospital setting. But after having her, I had the opportunity to be a stay-at-home mom. So I was very fortunate to have that opportunity. However, I noticed that after a few months of doing that, I was like, I need something. I need something more. I saw all my peers graduate and start their careers. And I was I was living stay-at-home mom life, which I definitely realized I needed some sort of fulfillment. So I thought the answer was to get a full-time job. So then I got a full-time job and I realized, okay, it was great for, again, the first couple months. And then I started to get that mom guilt of, I should be home with her. I should be doing more. So full-time employment didn't work for me either. And while I had that job, I did go back for my master's degree in business administration. And it wasn't until I was pregnant with my second that I knew I needed to figure out something different. So it was, I think, a month before she was due, I quit my job and I did all of the Googling of work from home jobs. And that kind of led me down a rabbit hole. And I finally landed, I knew I didn't want to do an MLM. So I knew that, but I was like, there's got to be something out there. There's got to be something for me to do as a mom. And I came across blogging. And I knew blogging wasn't going to be like a get rich quick type of thing. Although if there's something out there that's like that, then let me know. But so I started that because I knew that would give me the fulfillment side of things, which is what I didn't have when I was first a stay-at-home mom with my oldest. So I started a mom blog and I did that for about a year. And I really learned kind of all the things in the online space. I created my own website. I learned about SEO. I learned about marketing and kind of all the interconnecting pieces and tech and all of that. So I realized I had developed all of these skills over a year and I started to hear other bloggers hire virtual assistants and they were paying people to do what I was doing. And I'm like, oh, maybe I could do that. So I ended up taking a course on becoming a virtual assistant. And as soon as I did that, I quickly transitioned into an online business manager and started supporting other moms in the online space. And now I niche down solely into operations management. So now I focus on really looking at the systems, the foundation of a business, and really building that out so that they're sustainable and then they can scale past that ceiling that they've hit. So that's really where I'm at now.
Wonderful. Yeah, I can relate to some of that for sure because I also quit my job and was the stay-at-home mom and needed something. I was like, okay, I love being a mom, but I also need something to keep me like to kind of keep one foot like in the like working space, working mom space. And that's actually what I actually also started out blogging. I did do some MLM, a skincare company, not really. I was a fitness coach. So a lot of people think like, oh, did you do, forgetting the name of the company right now, Beachbody. And I was like, no, no, I was never into promoting that kind of stuff, but I like the skincare stuff that I used. So that worked out for me for like a year. But yeah, definitely, like you said, there's a lot of stuff out there that make you think like, oh, this is going to be the thing that, you really make money with. But it's so funny too, because with blogging, what I've learned from, and when I started my blog, this was 7 years ago, I definitely didn't mean to go into blogging to become like a professional blogger or to really make money from my blog. It was more of like a hobby. And my goal was to be more of like, I guess like an influencer, like to work with brands and promote their products for them. And that is sort of like what opened up the doors for me because then I got more involved in social media on Instagram, networked and stuff like that. So sometimes I feel like the thing that we start off with might not always be the thing that we end up doing, but it can teach us so much. And even like an MLM, I feel like it taught me a lot of what not to do. But it also kind of gave me like that confidence, like, all right, you do have to put yourself out there. But there's ways that you can do that without being really, you know, pushy and weird. So Molly, let's talk a little bit about building a sustainable business because that really resonates with me and with a lot of my listeners. Going back to the whole, there's a lot of noise out there of like building a business, like 7-figure business, 8-figure business overnight. You need this shiny object here. You need to buy this, course on, blowing up your TikTok, whatever, right? Sure, those things can work for some people, but it's so important to have a strong foundation to know like what are those like time and tested true methods that are going to help you create a business that can last years and years and years. Because what we're here to do, and I'm speaking for myself, I'm speaking for some of my clients and some of the people that listen to this, we love what we do. So we want to be able to do it for a long time. We're not really in here to just be like, okay, I want to build an 8-figure business and then sell it next year. We want to be in this for a while, right? So what are some of your tips for, creating strong business foundations and setting up a business to last a long time?
Yeah, so really the first, in my opinion, the most important step in building that foundation goes back to your mission and your why. So having a clear mission and the why behind what you do is super critical because then from there, you're going to align everything else that you do to that mission and to your vision of your business. And it's okay if your mission does evolve over time, but having that core piece so we know that we're not just doing something to do it is super important. And a lot of time it's interesting for me, my mission essentially stayed the same, which is supporting moms, but how I supported moms is what changed for me. So I first supported moms on like the motherhood side with my blog, but now I support mom entrepreneurs on the business side. So my mission has essentially stayed the same, but how I supported and how I did that is what changed. So that's the great thing about small business and entrepreneurship is you can pivot super easily, which is so even if you start one place, you can always you're likely going to end up in a different spot no matter what. But yeah, the first step is really going back to your mission and your why. And then the next step is to set your goals and figure out, go as far as your 10-year target. And then I like to do 10-year, 3-year goals and your 1-year goal. And then from there is we create the actual action steps of how to get to those goals. And I'm definitely a believer in keeping things simple. So setting too many goals, you're going to accomplish less than if you set less goals. So keeping things simple. And that kind of goes back to streamlining and automation as well, is the simple, the better. And just really targeting everything back to your mission, back to your vision. So we know that your business foundation is going to be aligned to where you want to go. So that's really the first step. Yeah. I can keep going.
Yeah. Feel free to share a couple more steps with us.
Yeah. So then from there, it's the other part of it. I kind of touched a little bit by talking about goals, but planning is super important in your business. And I think planning is super fun. It's super fun to look out of where you can go and whatnot. But one of the things that I like to talk about is a lot of the times we don't think past 90 days. So I am a big believer in 90-day planning, or quarterly planning, as some people call it, and mapping out your goals or your targets for that quarter, and then focusing on what you need to do there. So having that quarterly planning structure is super important in keeping your foundation set and sustainable. And then from there, you can go even further down into like your meeting structure. But another important part too that I like to talk about is having a culture code. And what I mean by that is figuring out exactly what you want your business to look like. So thinking of what is your ideal day? What do you like to do? What do you not like to do? And it's really important to figure these things out before you start growing a big team, because then you're going to know what you delegate, what you outsource, versus what you and only you will continue to keep doing. And I think a lot of us, when we step into that CEO role, it's really hard to let go of things. But if we go back to, okay, this is my mission, this is what only I can do, the rest I can delegate, kind of helps get people over that. So that's kind of the second step too, is really figuring out what you love to do, what you don't like to do, what is essential to hitting or to keep what's essential so that you'll continue to move towards your vision. And then that's what you'll know what to outsource.
Great. That's such a great tip. I feel like sometimes from what I see, business owners don't do this, or like you said, they don't look at it further down the line. It's and typically, and even from the work that I do in podcast management, a lot of times people think like, oh well, if I can't see the benefit of like bringing on a team member, if I don't see the benefit right away, then maybe I should wait. Like, it's usually like, okay, when my revenue increases, I'll hire that team member. When my revenue increases, I'll invest in podcast management. Or when my revenue increases, then I'll work with that mindset coach, whatever it is, right? But really what happens is, like, a lot of times the benefit, like that ROI, whether it's monetary or energy or whatever, time saving, it doesn't show up in our businesses until months later. And I think what happens is, like, people think like, oh, well, if I'm going to invest, like, instead of investing in, let's say in May or in June, I'm going to wait until like September. That's when I think I'll be ready to invest in a new coach, new, team member, whatever it is. But then what they don't realize is, like, all right, well, you're probably not going to see the benefit of that until like the end of the year, early the next year, right? So it's like, the more you push it off starting, the more that you're going to push off actually seeing that benefit. So I think that's also important to have in mind when, like, planning, when we're doing like this reverse engineering of things in our businesses. So I just wanted to add that too, because I think it goes hand in hand with what you're saying about, looking at things. Yeah, quarterly is important, but what about like looking at things like a year, like taking a year-long view or a 6-month view even of like where you're trying to take your business and what needs to happen for you to get there, whether it's, things that you need to take off your plate as a CEO, or, things that you need to stop doing because they're not really working. So that's why it's important to plan. So speaking of planning, Molly, I know that you love to plan. Can you share a little bit more about, organizing a business, and maybe like how do you work with your clients to help them set up automation in their businesses? Because I think that's also important for staying organized, also for scalability, to be able to free up some time and sanity sometimes. While I personally, I think that human connection, like we still need to have humans behind certain tasks. There are a lot of tasks that can be automated and make more sense to be automated. So what can you share with us about automation and what you love to help people automate?
Yeah. So, and after you've kind of really evaluated how you want your business to work, that will really help you figure out what you need to do in terms of like workflows and automation. Because if you don't like doing something and you can automate it, that's a good indication that if you can automate it, then definitely do it. But what I always like to start with, that I always tell my clients, is your onboarding process, because that is essentially the first thing that you do with your clients. And it's also the most important. So that first 24 hours when a new client pays you and they sign with you, that first 24 hours is critical. You want to make sure that they are excited, that they feel good, because a lot of times buyer's remorse starts to set in. So you kind of want to counteract that.
Yeah.
So the onboarding process is by far the number one thing I recommend to dial in on and get automated, so that they're getting what they need after they purchase. So they're getting something, they're feeling good. And then from there, you actually look at the exact process of how you work with that client. So you kind of go through your whole workflow of what it looks like from start to finish. And then once you identify that, you can identify areas where you can automate. And I do recommend to do it manually first, for a couple of reasons. One, you just want to understand it from a manual standpoint. If you do it once manually, then you'll have a good idea of how it works. But then two, you also have to identify what your clients respond to, because they could like getting emails, or maybe they would respond better to getting a text message. So you kind of evaluate what works best for them before you automate, because you don't want to spend all your time setting up this long email sequence if they're better at getting like a text. So that's another thing that I like to recommend when thinking of in terms of automating, is do it manually, get the data, ask your ideal client how they best respond to things. One of the things I really like to do is send a welcome video. So having that like in person, even though you're not technically in person, you're getting that face-to-face connection. And then in terms of other automations, and let's see. So your onboarding, then your workflow and how you work with them, offboarding, sending requests for testimonials. Not only is that going to help your business get more clients, but then you also get their feedback and you're continually improving. So that's super important. Then you don't have to worry about sending it, because I know that can be scary too, asking someone to give a testimonial. So that kind of takes off that edge as well. And then things that are repeatable. If there's a process that's repeatable, then you more than likely can automate that and then save time. Also, the things that do take a lot of time, seeing where you can automate those as well. That way you can focus your attention on actually serving the client or doing whatever your offer is.
Yes, I love that. I love the tip of asking your clients for feedback during the onboarding. I think that's something that we might not always think about. I actually have to think about how I can improve that in my own onboarding. Molly, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for sharing these tips with us. If people want to learn more about you, where can they connect with you?
Yeah, so you can either head to my website, which is mollymariss.com, or I am also over on Instagram, and my username is Molly Mariss as well. So yeah, I definitely love to chat with you for sure.
Great. Thank you so much. We'll have those links in the show notes. And yes, make sure that you have the right automation set up in your business and make sure that you are planning not just quarterly, but take a longer look at your business so that you're not missing anything and that your business is set up to grow in a sustainable and efficient way. And if you have questions, you know who to reach, Miss Molly Mariss. Thank you again so much for being my guest today. And thank you to everybody who's listening. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Elevated Femmes movement. I would love to hear your thoughts on the podcast, so please leave us a review. If you know someone who could benefit from the episodes on the show, please share it with them. We need more women elevating to their highest potential, enjoying all the great things in life, having plenty of time freedom for their children and loved ones, while doing things smarter and not harder, and growing a business that improves, not consumes their life. To connect with me and download my free resources, please go to www.juliamhickman.com.